finish this trial today because I am very tired. I don't think so, though. We're only at day 1 of court, right? Probably not. Okay. Let's hop right into it. Dude, I can't believe that. Adrian, you're way not cool and collected Adrian Andrews. She is your manager. It would have been easy for her to pull this off. The only person with easy access to the knife you used at dinner was, well, her. So after the ceremony, during the break, huh? I was sleeping like a log the entire time. See, she could have also easily planted that blood-covered button in your hakama. Because she was the one who came back to wake me up. And dude, you're saying it really was her? Yes, she is the real killer. She was the one who murdered Juan. But why? I thought she was buds with Juan. She has her own agenda. Her own agenda? What are you talking about? I'm sure you'll see by the time this trial's over. We'll be alright. I'll get you acquitted by the end of trial today. Get me a verdict that's refreshing like a spring breeze, okay, Mr. Lawyer Dude? Phoenix. I think her motive is related to Celeste Impact's missing suicide note, right? Yes. Miss Andrews depended on Miss Impact's as her strength and reason to live. But then Miss Impact suddenly killed herself. It sounds like she left a suicide note and the person thought to have hidden it is Juan Correa, the victim of this murder. And that's why I think Miss Andrews got close to Mr. Correa. All to get the suicide note back. That sounds plausible. But one thing bothers me. What? Who was it that first told us about the relationship? Better stated, Miss Andrews' dependency issues with regards to Miss Impact. Was Edgeworth. It looks like he's still the one in command of this ship. Don't let your guard down yet. Wah! Welcome, Zach. Board will now reconvene. Now that Mr. Edgeworth, if you please. I do. How do you do? The prosecution calls the witness subpoenaed by this court. Miss Adrian Andrews, the person who discovered the crime in Mr. Juan Correa's group. All my game audio got super messed up when I switched my capture cards. Because it was like this for the other ones too. After I did it. So now all my regular games have to be at the audio that Phoenix Wright usually has at, and I have no idea the audio for. It's so weird that it went down like that. Because Final Fantasy was all messed up too. Alright. If it's usually that should be good. Miss Adrian Andrews, the person who discovered the crime in Mr. Juan Correa's room. What is your occupation? I am the manager of the defendant in this case, Mr. Matt Does he know them? Before we begin, Your Honor, I have one request. Yes, sure, what is it? I'm sure everyone in this room is wondering the same thing, and would love to find out more about my relationship with the victim. After all, it was the topic of a certain weekly magazine recently. No, I have no idea what you mean. I've never heard of Gossipland. If the judge was ever a prosecuted witness, he'd do all my work for me. Anyway, I was wondering if you could please tell us about your relationship to the victim. Yes, I was, seeing Mr. Correa. I was also Is that better? Okay. When I installed my capture card, all my audio got super messed up, so I don't know what's good anymore. But that should be better. Yeah, it was really weird doing Final Fantasy 2. I couldn't figure out what was the problem, because none of my settings changed, so I had to lower everything. It was bizarre. I could not. Science couldn't explain it, but here we go. But I didn't kill him. No one is accusing you of that. I think there's someone who would beg to differ. I think we all understand your relationship with the victim now, Miss Andrews. Very well then, witness, please testify to the court about what happened when you discovered the murder that had taken place. It was time for the show to start, so I went to get Matt from his room. After that, I went to Juan's room. And there was his dead body. I was in shock. What I saw was naturally the exact same scene as in the crime scene's photo. I felt as though I was about to faint, so I poured myself a glass of juice. You poured yourself a glass of juice? Yes. Sadly, I didn't remember not to touch things at the scene of the crime. And I disturbed the crime scene by moving this one thing. And that is when the fingerprints on the wine of glass were made, Your Honor. I see. Well, Mr. Wright, you may cross-examine the witness. Phoenix, she is one cool and collected customer, and she has the brains to match. Yes, I know. In order to catch a person like her, you have to avoid head-on confrontations. You should disrupt her pacing. Disrupt her pacing? She's the type of woman who is easily thrown off by things inconsistent with her thinking. So you have to attack when she least expects it. The instant you let up upon your offense is the instant this trial is over. Understood? Can I just keep pressing anyway? It was time for the show to start, so I went to get Matt from his room. And what was Mr. Angardi doing at that time? He was taking a nap. He was worn out from his mini performance as the Nickel Samurai during the ceremony. Mr. Angardi did say he was taking a nap? Then I guess you could say it could not have been taken out of his room, yes? Excuse me? It? What are you? Right. I thought years of school would have taught you how to construct a sentence. If you can't make a sensible sentence with a subject, then I'll make one for you. Watch. Did you, Miss Andrews, remove Mr. Angardi's knife from his room? No. Subject, verb, object, right. Did you skip basic grammar? The witness may continue. Get him, Edward. After that, I went to Juan's room. And why did you do that? As a friendly gesture, Juan was to make an appearance with the other heroes. So the show was supposed to be a show of friendship, huh? Am I gonna get in trouble for pressing? Is that the only reason? I beg your pardon? What are you implying? You had a certain goal in mind when you started to get close to him, correct? So perhaps you had more of a personal matter to discuss with the victim. Sorry, but I didn't have any such intentions in mind at that time. I can't get her to talk without a strong piece of evidence, I guess. Maybe we continue now. Witness, what did you see when you got to his room? And there was his dead body. I was in shock. You were in shock? What? Was I not supposed to be? Miss Andrews is a very calculating person. And despite how close they were, I doubt she had romantic feelings for Mr. Cordera. Anyone randomly stumbling upon a dead body would be in shock. And you can't seriously expect that a young beauty like her would not be shocked. Somehow, I don't think beauty has anything to do with being shocked or not. I see. What I saw was naturally the exact same scene as in the crime photo. This is the photo you're referring to, correct? Yes, the one with the knife lodged in his chest. And the guitar case was like this too? Yes, it was open and empty, of course. And then, what did you do next, witness? I felt as though I was about to faint, so I poured myself a glass of juice. Juice? Yes, there was a bottle of tomato juice on the table, so I helped myself. But you didn't drink any of it, did you? Huh? There were no lip marks left on this wine, since the glass to suggest that anyone drank from it. I wasn't feeling terribly great, so I set the glass down without drinking it. Miss Andrews, I would like to confirm with you one more time. When you discovered the dead body of Juan Correda, you were in great shock? And that's when you poured yourself the glass of juice, correct? And what of it? My mind really was a complete blank at the time. Your mind was a complete blank. I didn't think that was possible for you. Aren't you rude today? I was so dazed that I made one careless mistake. That one thing? What one thing? Never mind. It's no big deal. What was she starting to say just now? Miss Andrews. I'm convinced that you, as you said, you made a mistake at the scene of the crime. What I really want to know is what this mistake was. Actually, so would I. I'm sorry, it's kind of embarrassing. When I see the glass... When I set the glass down on the dresser, I accidentally knocked over the flower vase over. Flower vase? Aren't you talking about the one on the floor of the crime photo? The mess of glass shards? It was originally on top of the dresser. But when I bumped into it with my elbow, it fell onto the guitar case. Why did you withhold such an important piece of information? I'm sorry. I thought that since the crime scene was already in disarray, that people would simply assume the vase was just another part of the mess. It looks like yet another fact has come to light here. Please add this and anything else you have to reveal to the testimony. I'm sorry, but I have nothing more to add. I didn't touch anything else. I think I can just throw evidence at this. You testified that you knocked the flower vase over, is this correct? Yes. And are you sure it fell onto the guitar case? Is there a problem with what I said? It's not some problem, it's a major problem. It's true that the top of the guitar case was wet with water. However, that's exactly what is so strange. Ms. Andrews, you testified that the vase fell onto the guitar case. However, if that was true, the case should have gotten wet on the inside, not the outside. That's very true. Furthermore, there is one other strange thing about this guitar case. And what is that? Let's take another look at the crime scene photo. The remains of the vase are scattered on the floor. And what is wrong with that? If the guitar case was open when the vase fell, the glass shards would be inside, not outside the case. What is your point, Wright? That the case was closed at the time the vase was knocked over? Is that all? No, think back to what Miss Andrews testified to. She said that other than the vase, she didn't touch anything else. Yes, that's right. She did implicitly say that she didn't touch the guitar case. But this whole matter with the guitar case is a dead end. The bright red guitar was found at the studio. It has no bearing on this case at all. That may very well be. However, the empty guitar case does seem to have no relation to this case, doesn't it? It seems that there is no deeper meaning to the guitar case. Well, Mr. Wright, do you think we need to hear more details about the guitar case? Yes. The empty guitar case. I believe this is a crucial piece of the puzzle. I can't believe anyone would reach for straws like this, but it is you. I can't believe I'm doing this either. Alright, I'll follow along for now. Miss Andrews, please testify to the court about the guitar case. Yes, Your Honor. I don't remember too clearly because I was a bit dazed. I suppose I must have opened the guitar case after I knocked the vase over. It's not a big deal though, right? The case was empty after all. As for why I opened the case, even I don't know. It looks like this really wasn't a very important point. That wastefulness is such a familiar feeling by now that it's almost comforting. Anyway, I'll just go ahead and start the cross-examination. Using any way to change the topic. A convenient escape for a weak man. I genuinely don't know what this is all proving, other than... Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's happening here, or why we're doing this with the guitar case. I don't remember too clearly because I was in a bit of a daze. During your testimony just now, did you remember those events clearly in your mind? Well, you see... Are you sure you are the one who opened the guitar case? She's waiting for someone to tell her if she should answer or not. Sounds like her dependent side is taking over. Well, Miss Andrews? Yes, it was me. I suppose I must have opened the guitar case after I knocked the vase over. This still doesn't make any sense. So, you opened the guitar case then? Yes, well, maybe. Why did you open the guitar case? Huh? Mr. Corretta's dead body was right there in front of you, wasn't it? I would think that the first thing you would do is call for help, not open a guitar case. As the witness has said multiple times when she found the dead body, she was dazed. Maybe I was curious to know if the bright red guitar was alright or not. I thought maybe the criminal took it. Why would she care about the bright red guitar? But getting back on topic. It's not a big deal though, right? The case was empty after all. Was it really empty? I was just wondering if maybe when you opened the case, the guitar was still inside. How long have you been a lawyer, Mr. Wright? Have a little professionalism. The bright red guitar was found at the studio. These trials would be over in half the time if you would just pay attention. Yes, pay more attention, Mr. Wright. Sorry. As for why I opened the case, even I don't know. Was that because you were shocked and dazed at discovering the victim's body? Yes, that's probably it. I'm not going to get anywhere if I continue pressing her like this. The only way to make her talk is with evidence. I guess I should give it a try. Come on, Phoenix. We can't afford to let up on her now. I wasn't planning on letting up, but she's at her weakest now, so this is our chance. Yeah, if we had a weapon to hit her with. I'm sure a weapon is hiding somewhere in the court record, waiting to be found. her fingerprints aren't on it. She didn't open this. Don't smack Edgeworth. After the big hissy fit that I witnessed Phoenix having because Edgeworth was alive, I feel like Edgeworth can say whatever he wants to us. It's fine. There is no way you were the one who opened the guitar case. Why would you say that? It's elementary, my dear. Because the only fingerprints on this guitar case are those of the victim. Ugh. What is it, Miss Andrews? You shouldn't assume that I must have left prints just because I touched the case. What do you mean? What if I were to tell you that I was wearing gloves at the time? No, Jesus, woman. Gloves? But why would you be wearing gloves at the time? It was the night of the awards ceremony, so of course I dressed up for the occasion. Yes, now I remember. I'm almost sure I was wearing a pair of thin gloves. I see. Well, Mr. Wright, it seems the witness was wearing gloves at the scene of the crime. That's strange. You were wearing gloves? Isn't that a little strange? Why is that strange? Do you have something that would prove I was not wearing gloves at the time? Oh. Yeah, because the wine glass has her fingerprints on it. I was thinking more along the lines of, the knife will be easily no prints on that, but this is fine too. I have your proof right here, this wine glass. The wine glass? You left your fingerprints very clearly on the wine glass. Even if you took your gloves off when you poured yourself this glass of juice, wouldn't you think it was just a little strange? That you put your gloves back on just to open the guitar case? Oh. Order, order, order. Looks like you hit the nail on the head this time. What do you mean? I believe the guitar case plays a very important role here. But it's just an empty case. I wonder if it really was empty, though. But the bright red guitar was at the studio. Phoenix, drop all of your presumptions. What was in that guitar case was not the bright red guitar. You don't mean... It was a bright white guitar. Wait, no, that's not right either. I admit it would be unnatural for someone to do that. So the witness was not wearing gloves, despite the fact that that on the case. Your Honor, this is obviously the defense's usual misdirection tactic at work. Steer the court towards an unrelated topic and lull us all into his misguided... No, Your Honor. Please recall that Miss Andrews had testified that the vase fell onto the guitar case, which means that the case was closed when the crime took place. However, it was wide open in this photo of the crime scene. I am sure this guitar case has some relation to the murder. If you are so sure, Wright, then I'm sure you can somehow substantiate your outrageous claim, correct? Please enlighten us as to why that guitar case has anything at all to do with this murder. Can you do that, Mr. Wright? Well, let's suppose for a second that the bright red guitar was not the only thing that could have been in that case. The bright red guitar not being the only thing? You don't mean to suggest that it was a black guitar? So you intend to push your theory that the case was not empty? Is that it, Wright? I wouldn't say something I didn't intend to prove. Deflate that head of yours. You haven't proven anything yet. Now then, let's have it. What was inside this case at the time of the murder? I don't know. It's tough because we did this, like, last time we talked about any of this was Thursday. But if I remember correctly, we proved that the person coming out of Cordera's room wasn't... It couldn't have been Angarde because the pants are too small. So it's definitely her in here. But he's wearing his costume in the other room. So that makes 2 Nickel Samurai costumes. So you have to assume a Nickel Samurai costume was in the fucking suitcase? After she killed him, she put it on? Why would there have been a costume in the suitcase anyway? Who put that there? This feels like a crazy stretch. But nothing else fits. Because the knife is in the other room. She took the button. I genuinely don't have anything else I can... Okay. This is a photograph. Yes, but what is important is what is in the picture, Your Honor. In this picture, it doesn't take a genius to see what I mean. What I am proposing is, inside the guitar case was the Nickel Samurai, the hero's very own costume. What? Yeah, me too, Ashbro. Mr. Wright, explain yourself. Wright, are you saying that the witness opened the guitar case to take out a costume? What insane point would there be to doing something like that? That insane point would be to wear the costume, of course. Miss Andrews put it on to hide her identity so she could make her escape. After all, you couldn't let anyone see you leave, could you, Miss Andrews? I refuse to accept your theory. Do you have anything to support such a preposterous idea? And just outside the door was an investigative photographer who was starving for a big scoop. And in the end, she managed to get this shot, correct? You mean this photo? It's true. Order, order. It looks like we've wandered into quite another mess again, haven't we? Nice job, Phoenix. Well, you know my strategy. Speak first, think later. That's a bad strategy. So the real murderer was hiding inside a costume. Wait 1 second, Your Honor. The Nickel Samurai costume would have been Master Matangarde's. Why would something of the defendant's be in the victim's room? That's what I'm saying, actually. And inside the guitar case, of all places? True, this is a little baffling. Mr. Wright, the court would like to hear your thoughts. What was the Nickel Samurai costume doing inside the guitar case? Well, it wasn't stolen from him. Is that really the answer? I'm going, what? Spare. Mr. Angarde did not take his costume off during the break period. In that case, the costume we are talking about was a spare one. Stupid. What? Then, are you saying that on the night of the murder, there were 2 Nickel Samurai costumes in the Gatewater Hotel? Yes, that is what I'm saying. And how do you explain that the costume was inside the guitar case? It would mean that the victim himself brought this spare of the to the ceremony on purpose. But why? The victim, Mr. Corridor, was the Jammin' Ninja. Why would he secretly bring the Nickel Samurai spare costume with him? What could be the reason behind such a peculiar act? And there lies the sticking point. I'm glad you're not pulling bullshit about knowing why this happened. Oh, what are you mumbling to yourself about now? Have you just been rambling all this time without any sense of inner monologue? Huh? No, I just... Mr. Wright, please explain yourself. Why do you think the victim had the Nickel Samurai spare costume? Phoenix, are you sure you can explain this one? Think carefully before you answer, and then answer with gusto. I believe in you. Alright, this is what I think. The reason the victim brought the Nickel Samurai spare costume to the hotel was Are you fucking kidding me? Why did he bring it? Is this the last case for Justice for All? It's before... It's all good. It's before any of this, like... Before any of the crime scene evidence. Because this is something to do with, like... There was supposed to be a press conference, and Matt Ungardi doesn't know anything about it. Yeah, Matt Ungardi kept saying he didn't know anything about a press conference. Was Juan Correda going to dress up as the Nickel Samurai and make up some bullshit to tell at the press conference and ruin the Matt's good name? Just that's the only. But why? What was he gonna say? This is It's the only piece of evidence that makes sense to show. What is this? On the night of the murder, after the stage show, the Nickel Samurai was going to hold a special press conference. A press conference? Yes, the Nickel Samurai was supposed to confess something at this conference. I heard about this as well. For once, you're not making something up, right? But what struck me as strange was that Mr. Ungardi himself said that he had no idea he was supposed to be holding a press conference that night. But how can that be? The way I see it, that can mean only one thing. The conference was set up. By none other than the victim, Mr. Juan Correda himself. The victim? Yes! The spare Nickel Samurai costume was prepared for this very conference. Mr. Correda was going to hold a press conference as the Nickel Samurai. He was going to dress up as the Nickel Samurai and hold a conference? But why would the victim do such a thing? That's something I don't quite know yet. However, what I am concerned with right now is what he intended to reveal at that conference. The Nickel Samurai was going to confess something. And by confess, I'd wager he was going to reveal something about himself. Which means that Juan Correda, posing as the Nickel Samurai, was going to speak about Matt Ungardi. Yes, I guess that is what it would mean. But if that's the case, that's not a confession, that's public disclosure. Did Matt have something to do with, what's her name? Apex Legends or whatever that woman's name is? What was her name? Oh, Celeste Impacts. Huh. Celeste. Celeste, the only thing I can think of is has something to do with Celeste. That's the only thing. I knew there was an X in it, so I was like, Apex Legends? Miss Andrews, I can see why you are pros at what you do. I'm sorry. It's been so long. Let's do these on Thursday. Pardon me? Yes, just as you say, the press conference was set up by Juan. Miss Andrews, please offer us an explanation for this. I was the one he asked to help set it up. And the person who prepared the second costume for him. That was also me. You? Juan had bet everything on the Jammin' Ninja this year, and if he lost the Grand Prix, he was going to make sure Matt was going down with him. That's what he thought, anyway. He was going to ruin him, huh? It looked like somehow Juan had his hands in a secret so powerful that it would destroy Matt's acting career had it been revealed. What? And do you know what the secret of Mr. Angardes is, Miss Andrews? That's something only Juan knew. I don't know what it is. Oh, I see. I've probably been coming off quite suspicious to everyone, but that is to be expected. I've been trying to protect Matt, after all. Protect Mr. Angarde. And yet again, another strange bit of truth comes to light, it seems. Miss Andrews, if you could please tell us about the truth of your, about your behavior. Yes, Your Honor, I understand. From the moment I saw the crime scene, I had a feeling that Matt was the murderer. Matt had to kill Juan no matter what, and he didn't have an alibi for what he was going to do at the time of the murder. My thoughts were confirmed by the evidence, of course, the button and the knife. But I'm Matt's manager, so I felt I had to protect him. So I lied. In a court of law. No big deal. This does account for everything. Well, I am the logical type. We're finally seeing her true self. She is more nervous than a scared rabbit. If the defense can find no fault with this testimony, I am ready to make a ruling. Please keep that in mind as you cross-examine Mr. Wright. Looks like somehow everything is swinging the opposite end of the scale again. That just means I have to put my weight into this and turn her logic upside down. The way that these witnesses lie constantly and then are allowed to continue testifying is truly the most baffling part of Phoenix Wright. You gotta pay your taxes! From the moment I saw the crime scene, I had a feeling that Matt was the murderer. Would you say that it was your intuition speaking to you? Don't confuse my methods of reasoning with your own. Oh. If you want to prove that someone did something, you need 3 things. 3 things? A motive, an opportunity to commit the crime, and finally, decisive evidence. And if you think that these 3 things through, the answer becomes quite clear. You should know already. You should have already known that, Phoenix. They didn't teach that to us in school. At least not from what I remember. God damn it, Phoenix. I don't truthfully believe Phoenix Wright has been to law school, nor has he passed the bar exam. May I continue now? Matt had to kill Juan, no matter what. So would you say this need came from the press conference? Yes. Do you know why Juan chose that event at the hotel for the conference? Because that was when he could cause the most damage to the public's most beloved, Matt Angarde. And you knew of this plan, didn't you, Miss Andrews? Yes, because I was the one who set up the conference and prepared the costume. But I'm sure Miss Angarde himself didn't know anything about the press conference. Oh, really? Can you show me any proof that he didn't know about the press conference? Anyway, the important thing here is that this information was not in your testimony. Yes, I agree, Miss Andrews. Please correct your testimony, if you please. Grasping at straws now, are we, Mr. Wright? I know what his motive was, but I don't have any way to prove that. To prove I'm right. Has Mr. Angarde done something to hurt or betray you personally? Why do you ask? You were the one who helped Mr. Correa with his press conference, and that event was supposed to bring down Mr. Angarde, yet you still helped out. Yeah, and now she's protecting Matt. I'm so confused what this woman wants. Oh no. The person on trial right now is Mr. Angarde, right? What the witness was thinking, helping the victim with his plan, is none of our concern. In any case, this means that the defendant had a motive to kill. Why do I keep doing this to myself? And he didn't have an alibi for what he was doing at the time of the murder. But didn't you already testify earlier that Mr. Angarde was taking a nap in his room? Are you telling me now that that too was a lie so you could cover for Mr. Angarde? I'm not telling you anything of the sort. When I went to get him for the show, he honestly was sleeping. However, as to whether he was sleeping the entire time, that I cannot say. I was too busy setting up the stage at the time. I keep trying, but I can't find any flaws with what Miss Andrews has said. I can't say the same for some people here in this courtroom, however. The judge is glaring straight at me. He's glaring at you, smart guy. My thoughts were confirmed by the evidence, of course. The button and the knife. You can hardly call the knife decisive evidence. The fingerprints on the knife could very well be a clever camouflage. Then, what about the button? The button? It's clear from the crime scene that the victim and the murderer fought. And during that fight, the killer ripped the button from the Gem and Ninja's costume. You're talking about this button, correct? That button was found in the pleats of Matt's hakama, isn't that correct? I would think that makes it very decisive evidence. Ugh. Looks like you were outfoxed again, Mr. Wright. Anyway, the knife doesn't prove a thing. Please fix your testimony. I can't stand the sight of a man who can't gracefully accept his defeat. Thank goodness Mia can still look at me. With an icy stare, yes. Miss Andrews, for Mr. Wright's sake, please add this information to your testimony. That button was torn. I feel like I'm digging myself into a hole, so I want to skip that for a second. But I'm Matt's manager, so I felt that I had to protect him. But what you really did was stab the guy in the back, didn't you? And at the worst possible time.
Objection!
Who's to say she really stabbed the guy in the back, as you put it? This witness could have disclosed things about Mr. Ungarde at any time. Why then would she wait until there was a large audience before doing so? It's the same reason why Mr. Corrado planned such an elaborate conference. Miss Andrews wanted to cause Mr. Ungarde as much damage as she possibly could. The witness bears ill will towards the defendant. This isn't the Phoenix Wright wax philosophical power hour, and please stop slandering the witness. As I expected, Miss Andrews' testimony seems pretty solid. Really? Because to me it sounded a little wishy-washy. Wishy-washy? Well, I guess we'll see if I press a little more. You should know this by now. But you'll need strong, decisive evidence to make her talk. Got it, Chief. I'm gonna pin you down this time, Miss Andrews. Let me see. And how do you know that? When the ends of the threads of the buttons and the costume matched up, they were found to fit together perfectly. Or so I heard. I've heard that before too. But why would Miss Andrews know about this case down to such a fine detail? Don't look at me like that, just because I'm prepared and you are not. And I thought I had her this time for sure. If there's anything to trip her up on, it has to be here. But where and what? Oh shit, that's not what I wanted to do. There's one thing that we keep, like, not going over super hard that we need to go it's, we keep talking about how this man was stabbed, and he was, but he was also strangled to death. Yeah, he was strangled, but we keep focusing on the knife. I said this, I remember distinctly saying this on Thursday. I was like, what the fuck, why do we care so much about a knife? This is the victim's autopsy report. It clearly states that the cause of death was strangulation by a scarf. Strangulation? The knife stab to the victim was done after the victim had already died. And what does that mean? Let's examine the evidence. This button has the victim's blood on it, which would mean that it was ripped off the costume. When? After the knife was stabbed into the victim. Exactly, which means it is impossible that this button was turned off during the victim's final struggle. Because the victim was strangled to death in that fight. That's right, Miss Andrews. There is no way this button was ripped off during the struggle. This button was consciously pulled off the victim's already dead body. Order, order. What is the meaning of this, Wright? So what if the button was torn off the body after the victim had already died? What does that change? Let me ask you one simple question, Mr. Edgeworth. Why was the button torn off? What purpose did that serve? What purpose? We now know that this button was not torn off during the fight, so the murderer took the time and effort to purposely rip it from the victim's body. That would mean that the murderer had something in mind, wouldn't it? Oh, Mr. Wright, does this mean you know what the murderer wanted to do with the button? Was that it? It was, to pin the crime. To pin the crime on the boy. There was only one logical reason for doing something like that. It was to pin the crime on Mr. Angarde. There is no way anyone will put a bloodied button in their own pants. That's right. Mr. Angarde was set up. By the real killer, of course. And the real murderer is... Well, Mr. Wright, who in the world is this real killer then? Finally. I can't believe I managed to bring this trial all the way up to this point. I know, Zach. Phoenix, you can't let your guard down yet. Not until the very end. The real killer, the person who planned to frame Mr. Angarde is... Miss Adrian Andrews. I choose you! You are Mr. Corretta's killer. What? Order, order, order. Mr. Wright, this is a very grave matter. Do you have any evidence that supports your charge? Any evidence? All the evidence points to Miss Andrews. How preposterous. You can't stick any of that on me. I can't, can I? Would you care to test me? Then what about this knife? The knife was used to stab the victim after he had already been strangled to death. It was used to throw suspicion onto Mr. Angarde naturally. A knife covered in the defendant's fingerprints could only be taken from his room, and the only one who had dinner with him and knew which knife to take was you. Then, what about the button that was found on Matt's hakama? This button was removed from the victim's body after he had already died. Oops. The only people who could have done so were the person who found his body or the killer. However, if Mr. Angarde was the real killer, there is no way he would have put such incriminating evidence in his own hakama. The only person who could have put this button into Matt Angarde's hakama is the person who went to wake him from his nap, which is you, yet again, Miss Andrews. I see. What about the empty guitar case? That is also another piece of evidence that incriminates Miss Andrews. That costume was used to hide the real killer's identity as she fled the crime scene. Now, who could have known that there was just such a costume inside the guitar case? It could have only been the person who prepared the costume for the victim. And that person is you, Miss Adrian Andrews. No, But Miss Andrews' fingerprints were nowhere to be found on the guitar case. And it was you who proved that she was not wearing gloves at the time. That's right. That's because she did not intend on leaving any prints. If anyone had found out that she had touched the case, they would have asked her why. So to avoid leaving any prints, she used a towel or something else to open it. But the glass of tomato juice is a different story. Miss Andrews purposely left her fingerprints on the glass to show that yes, indeed, she was the classic dazed discoverer of a dead body. And to top it all off, there is this photo. A photo of the killer as they exited the scene of the crime. No reasonable person on Earth can believe this nickel samurai is Mr. Angarde. He would be much too short for his own costume if it was him. It's speaking of how tall people are, Miss Andrews, you're also kind of short in stature, are you not? Please stop. Well, how about it, Miss Andrews? I've got her this time. Miss Andrews? I refuse to testify. What was that? There's a law. It says I can't be forced to testify about something if it can incriminate me. Well, yes. You are absolutely correct, Miss Andrews. The law does provide us with a way to avoid self-incrimination, by allowing a witness to not testify if the testimony can damage to themselves. What? Pleading the fifth is not something most people would think to do on the spot. Actually, thinking back to yesterday in Mr. Angarde's room... Adrian Andrews. Yes? Think hard about what we just discussed. Think hard about... understood. Alright. That's it. That's when Francisca planted this idea into her head. She must have told Miss Andrews not to testify if things looked bad. You did a good job proving everything up to this point, Phoenix, but there is still one thing you haven't done. Something I haven't done. What's wrong, Wright? Are you finished already? Run out of evidence? What is so humorous, Mr. Edgeworth? I'm sure you realize this as well, Your Honor. But everything the good lawyer here has proven up to this point is meaningless. What? Everything you have proven is circumstantial. Circumstantial? Yes, circumstantial. You have yet to provide a single piece of definitive proof. Proof that Miss Andrews did in fact harbor a wish to murder Mr. Correda. Miss Andrews, did you want to kill Mr. Correda? I believe this may lead to me incriminating myself, so I will abstain from answering. But Miss Andrews, if you do that, it will be the same as admitting your guilt, don't you think? Maybe so, or maybe not. There's nothing to prove it either way. Besides, you don't even know what crime I would be guilty of due to my silence. No, she's taking that defiant attitude again. Mia, what should we do? Somehow, we've landed in the worst possible situation. I think we have reached a certain conclusion at this point in time. Miss Adrian Andrews has refused to testify. And in the defense's theory that she is actually the murderer, has not been fully substantiated with solid definitive proof. But that's not true. In this situation, there is only one thing this court can do, and that is to declare a recess. A recess? I request that both the prosecution and the defense look further into this matter, and at tomorrow's trial. Tomorrow! We don't have a tomorrow. If we don't get a not guilty verdict today, then... Please wait, Your Honor. That is not necessary. The trial... Please continue the trial. What are you sweating for? Your client is getting one more day to live, isn't he? That's not it. This isn't about that. Edgeworth, I know you know who the real killer is. Please let the trial continue. If I don't get the verdict, then Maya... But it is impossible to continue as long as the witness refuses to testify. Now then, this court is... It is not impossible for this trial to continue. Mr. Edgeworth, what are you doing? It's true, Miss Andrews holds the right against self-incrimination. However, if the topic of conversation were something unrelated to whatever she may be guilty of, then she has no right to withhold testimony. Yes, that is very true. Actually, there is one little thing I am curious about. Miss Andrews, when you found the victim's dead body, you poured yourself a glass of juice. Yes, and I can't help but think how unnatural that is. Usually when one finds a body, they are shaken up, not stirring a glass of juice. So my actions were unusual, but I've already... Before you speak, I want you to state that if you have a reason behind your actions, I would like you to testify to that effect. Testify? Your Honor, I would like to request that the witness testify again as to what happened when she first discovered the victim's body. Whatever we find out in this testimony should be in no way implicate the witness. I don't know what it is about Edgeworth today, but I can't get a good read off of him. Is he friend or foe? I just don't know. The court acknowledges the prosecution's request. Miss Andrews, if you please. The glass of juice, I didn't really pour it for myself. I was surprised when I walked into the room and saw it in that messy state. And Juan, he was sitting slumped over and tired looking in the corner. When I saw him sitting like that, I thought that he was dead. Didn't cross my mind. To be honest, I thought he had just fainted or something, so I went to pour him some juice. When I realized that he was dead, that's when I knocked the flower vase over. So you poured some juice. Why didn't you say that in your earlier testimony? I didn't think I needed to include something so trivial. Phoenix, please be careful here. If you can't find anything wrong with this testimony, then there's nothing left. I know. Edgeworth, what the heck is going on in that brain of yours? Now then, Mr. Wright, you may begin your cross-examination. That glass of juice. I didn't really pour it for myself. But there wasn't anyone else in the room, right? Well, of course not. Then who did you pour it for? Mr. Wright, there is a rhyme and reason for everything. Can you wait just a little longer for it to be revealed to you? In other words, Wright, be quiet and listen. Precisely, I couldn't have said it better myself. Ugh. I was surprised when I walked into the room and saw it in that messy state. So it was a mess. Are you sure it wasn't messy because of your fight with Mr. Correa? I understand your frustrations at not being able to prove your theory. However, before you go accusing people of crimes, go find yourself some evidence. Ugh. And then, what did you see next, witness? And Juan, he was sitting slumped over and tired looking in the corner. Slumped over? Yes, he was just sitting there with his head tilted forward, eyes closed. He really looked like he was sleeping. Is it just me, or did that right there sound a little odd? When I saw him sitting like that, the thought that he was dead didn't cross my mind. Then what did cross your mind? I thought maybe he had smashed everything up in anger because he lost the Grand Prix, and then felt tired after his rampage, so he decided to take a nap. Anyways, that's what I thought. I see, so you didn't think he was dead at all? To be honest, I thought he had just fainted or something, so I went to pour him some juice. Oh. You thought he fainted? I thought he was asleep at first, but then the room was in such a messy state, I thought maybe he had gotten into a fight with someone. This woman is all over the place, and that's when you went to pour the glass of juice. Yes, he always has a hard time waking up, so Juan always has a glass of tomato juice to drink. I see, and after that, what happened next? When I realized that he was dead, that's when I knocked the flower vase over. And how did you come to realize that he was in fact dead? I shook him over and over, but I never got a response, so I set the glass down on the dresser and tried to take his pulse. I was shocked and staggered backwards. And knocked the flower vase over, so that's what happened? Yes. This is what it all comes down to. Huh? This is the absolute end for both sides, and Adrian is letting her guard down. Phoenix, now is our best chance to kill the prosecution's case. Isn't that a bit harsh? Miss Andrews, will you tell us the truth this time? Her test, she's like... It's this one, right? Yeah, it just really doesn't make any sense. It's gotta be this. Because if she set the glass down and then knocked the flower thing over, she would have knocked the juice down too. So we're kind of back what we were talking. We've literally looped right back around to what we were talking about before. But we have to prove it again for whatever reason. Oops. So you honestly didn't think he was dead when you found him? No, not at all. Even though this is what you saw when you discovered the body? What is the meaning of this? Isn't it obvious, Your Honor? There is a knife sticking straight out of Mr. Corrida's chest. Oh, is this what we're focusing on? Anyone who saw the scene would have immediately thought that here was a dead man. That's... well, you see... I doubt a single person in the world would mistake this for someone who fainted. And then, so nonchalantly, go pour something to drink. This is not what I was trying to prove when it came to evidence, but... Jesus. Your point is, I did think about the knife, too. I just thought if he was so slumped forward, she wouldn't see it. Miss Andrews, your testimony just now it was all one giant lie. Ugh. And your lie has proven one thing very clearly. That you are the real killer. No! It looks like the defense has somehow brought the ugly truth to light. The defendant, Mr. Matt Angarde, is not guilty after all. But that's impossible. You're wrong. Miss Andrews, try to have some composure. It wasn't me. It wasn't me, I tell you. It was Matt, I swear it. He's the one who killed Juan. But you were the one who refused to testify. And your reason for not doing so was that you might end up incriminating yourself. That's because... Miss Andrews, I will give you one last chance. What exactly are you hiding that may incriminate you? I refuse to testify. Then there is no need for this court to continue any further. Mr. Matt Angarde's innocence has already been demonstrated. Is it over? Have we found the truth at last? What's wrong, Phoenix? Usually the real killer confesses his or her guilt. That's not how it usually works in real courts. And now that I think about it, this is the first time someone has it. Now, then I would like to hand down my verdict for Mr. Matt Angarde. Your Honor, the prosecution feels that it would be premature to pass down a verdict at this time. What? The reason is quite simple. The witness has yet to speak the absolute and real truth. The absolute real truth? What are you talking about? Witness, don't you understand yet? Huh. I don't know who planted this silly idea in your head, but as long as you protect yourself through your silence, Matt Angarde will go free, and in his place, you will become the guilty party. That's a lie! I don't believe you. What? I was told if I spoke, then it would be all over, and Matt would never be declared guilty. What in the world is she talking about? Has she lost it? I can't speak about it. I'm too scared. It's Francisca von Karma. Huh? Don't you remember, Phoenix? Miss Andrews lives by gripping tightly onto the words of another, because she doesn't have the strength to believe in herself. Then, right now, Miss Andrews is... Yesterday she was tossed a lifesaver by Miss von Karma. Don't say a word, no matter what happens. If you do, Matt Angarde will be acquitted. Miss Andrews undeniably believes in those words right now and is clinging on to them. Then what should we do? This is the first time I've ever come across anything like this. But Miss Andrews has to be the killer, right? All we have to do now is get our not guilty. That is my only priority. It wasn't me. I'm begging you, please believe me. I didn't kill Juan. Help. Please, Someone help me! Mr. Wright. Yes, Your Honor. The court can't continue on like this. Therefore, I'd like to hear what you intend to do. What I intend to do? What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to say? Wright, I suggest you think very carefully about this. Think about what this witness did and what she did not do. And think about who is the real mastermind behind this crime. Who's the real mastermind? Isn't that obvious? There's no one else it could be except the woman crying over there, right? Come now, what will you do? What kind of man are you, Mr. Phoenix Wright? I'm gonna finish this game, Mr. Edgeworth. No matter what she says, Miss Andrews is the only person it could be. Not to mention, I don't have a choice. I have to win a complete acquittal today. Your Honor, the defense believes there is enough evidence to substantiate our claim. Therefore, we motion that this court passes a verdict of not guilty as soon as possible. I'm disappointed in you, Wright. Oh, thank you for the sippy. What else is new, Edgeworth? What have you learned in this past year? That's enough. I commend you for trying, Mr. Edgeworth. However, it's clear that the defense's theory is the truth. You're wrong. What a shame. I had hoped things wouldn't come to this. However... What is it, Mr. Edgeworth? Miss Andrews, since you absolutely refuse to testify, it falls on my shoulders to disclose this to the court. Stop! Mr. Edgeworth! This witness, how should I put this? She has an illness. What? And because of this illness, she has tried to commit suicide in the past. Stop! Please stop! No matter how much you want to hide it, it's no use. I have the evidence right here. That's the second part of the suicide report. The attempted suicide report. What will you do now, witness? You know what I'm about to do, don't you? I will now reveal to the court the true nature of the pitiful woman known as Adrian Andrews. The secret of her dependent nature. Having other people know about it scares her more than anything else in the world. Please, please stop! I beg you, if people find out, I'll... If you're going to say you would choose death, that is of no concern to me. Oh, bruh. Edgeworth, how can you be so cold? Is this the man trying to pin this woman for murder? However, before you die, I will pull the truth from your still breathing lips. No matter what I have to do. This man is so powerful right now. So, will you tell the court yourself, or shall I? Either was fine with me. This man... I'll talk, but please help me. This man is insanely powerful. Nothing matters anymore. When I first saw him, I really thought he had fainted, honest. When I realized he was dead, that was when I formulated my plan. Once I made sure there was no one in the hallway, I made a dash back to Matt's room. And then, I stabbed Juan's dead body with a knife and ripped off the button. Just when I finished and was returning to Matt's room, I had a bit of an inconvenience. And that's why I ended up using the nickel samurai costume. Stab the body with the knife? But why would you do that? Isn't it obvious? To pin the blame on a certain person. A certain cowardly man. What do you mean by all of this? It might take this court a little while to understand, but... 'cause you're all idiots. This is the truth. The real killer is Matt. That scumbag of a man. I'll never forgive him. He's trying to escape his guilt again, just like last time. Matt did have something to do with, Celeste. We've all thought it was Juan, for whatever reason, but it was definitely Matt. Matt probably drove her to kill herself, ? And so, we've been believing that Andrews was trying to get in good with Juan to avenge Celeste, but they probably were in it together, which is why she knew there was a spare costume in there, because he purposely brought it so that they could drop this crazy secret. So Juan and her were in it together. Juan ends up dead somehow. Juan ends up dead somehow. And then she has to make it, in a desperate attempt, she tries to make it look that Matt did it and gets in trouble. And then we've got this man, Shelly the Killer, running around. So I wonder if Matt knew more than he is letting on and hired an assassin? I don't know. That kid's an idiot. He does not seem very smart. But if he is the cause of Celeste being murdered, maybe he's just fooling everybody. I don't know. That's my theory. My game theory. Last time. So Miss Andrews stabbed the victim Juan Coretta in the chest with the knife. However, she didn't do it with murder in mind. She did it with the intent of framing Matt Ngarde for the murder. And this is her crime. What? How is that possible? I mean, wasn't Miss Andrews supposed to be the real murderer? Mr. Wright, please get over your shock and commence the cross-examination. Man, it's nothing like Rise of the Ashes, or whatever that fucking trial was called. With Emma, and the car, and the double murder. That wasn't really a double murder. When I first saw him, I really thought he had fainted. Honest. But you could tell from the state the room was in that there must have been a fight. Are you telling the truth when you say that you did not know he was dead? He had a scarf tied around his neck, but that scarf is part of the Jammin' Ninja's costume, so I didn't think anything about it was strange. His head was also tilted down a bit, so I couldn't see his face that well. That's why I thought I'd wake him up and went to pour the juice. When I realized he was dead, that's when I formulated my plan. What is this plan you had? I knew right away the murderer was Matt. I knew because one, he was going to expose Matt's weakest weak point to the world. So Matt did this to stop one and silence him for good. That's when I thought I should forge some evidence and pin this crime on Matt. So the forged pieces of evidence were the knife and the button. The first thing that came to mind was to plant the knife. Once I made sure there was no one in the hallway, I made a dash back to Matt's room. That was so you could get the knife, correct? The knife Matt used at dinner had his fingerprints all over it. I thought if I used that, then the police would certainly turn their eyes towards him. Matt was napping with his costume on at the time. I slipped in, took the knife, and returned it to the scene of the crime. And then I stabbed Juan's dead body with the knife and ripped off the button. Just when I finished and was returning to Matt's room, I had a bit of an inconvenience. Oh. What have I pressed? So you were the one to stab the victim with that knife. It gives me goosebumps to think about it now. What a horrible thing I did. But at the time I couldn't control my own body and it moved on its own. Then, when I stabbed Juan's dead body, I suddenly realized something. If I used this button somehow, I could make Matt look even more suspect. So you thought to rip one of the buttons off and then plant it in Mr. Ngarde's hakama. Yes, that's what I had planned to do. But things never go that smoothly, do they? Just when I finished and was returning to Matt's room, I had a bit of an inconvenience. An inconvenience? there was a woman with a camera at the ready, loitering in the hallway. I'm willing to bet my spikes it was Lana. There was also a woman with a ray gun at the ready, pacing back and forth. That's Miss Oldbag for you. I had already been caught and made into a big scoop for a certain weekly tabloid once, so I couldn't very well go out looking like myself and get caught again. And that's why I ended up using the Nickel Samurai costume. You were the one who prepared that costume, weren't you? Yes, I took it from Global Studios. I also put it into Juan's guitar case the day before the awards ceremony. You did this in preparation for the press conference, correct? Yes, Juan wanted to wear that costume and hold a press conference in it. He was going to disclose Matt's big secret there. And what is this secret? We've already talked about this. That I don't know. Anyway, I thought if I were to leave Juan's room in the Nickel Samurai costume, then people would think that Matt was the real murderer. I was very careful not to leave any fingerprints when I opened the guitar case. I absolutely did not want anyone to know about the costume. I think we've heard enough. So after that, you went back to Mr. Angarde's room and planted the butt. Into Matt's hakama? Yes. After that, I folded up the costume I was wearing and put it into a bag. Then I snuck out of the hotel and got rid of it. My word! What does this all mean? Mr. Edgeworth, is it... the real criminal is Matt Angarde. Yesterday, that woman prosecutor sat me down for a talk. Francesca, huh? She said that I should under no circumstances confess what I had done. That if I just kept quiet, then Matt would be found guilty for sure. Oh, I keep doing that. I had no choice but to believe in her words. What this witness has done is clearly unlawful, however. As long as her testimony stands, we can be certain she is not the real killer. Wait, Your Honor. The defense still... Right. It's pointless. At this point in time, it is not possible to indict Miss Andrews on anything. Except all the crimes she did. Yes, exactly. There isn't a single piece of evidence that points to her as the murderer. The cross-examination of the witness is over, and so is today's trial. You couldn't establish that the witness was the culprit. Please let it go, Mr. Wright. But... Mr. Edgeworth, please place Mr. Andrews under arrest for further questioning. Understood, Your Honor. The prosecution will arrange for her detention immediately. That is all. Court is adjourned for today. Womp. Today's trial, it's over. And I didn't win an acquittal. Witness, would you mind if I asked you something? Edgeworth? What is it? Before you leave court today, I wondered if I might look at one thing. That card in your hand. It had my interest for quite some time now. What exactly is it? Oh, this? Mr. Wright also asked about this. Although I didn't remember at the time you asked me about it, Mr. Wright, I remember just now. I found this in the room on that day. The room? That day? Yeah. I found this card when I discovered Juan's body. Fucking hell. It was lying there right next to him. You found that card next to the victim's body? I suppose I must have unconsciously slipped it into my pocket. But it's not as if this card has any relevance to Juan's murder, right? Yeah, I guess not. But it's still a strange card if you ask me. I'm so angry. But as far as a clue to this case, I don't see why. Witness! That card! Give it to me! Hurry! Edgeworth? Do you have any idea what you have stupidly yet inadvertently done? This! I cannot believe you hid this from me for all this time! I didn't mean to. What is this all about? I've never seen Edgeworth so emotional before. What in the world is it? What does it mean? Yeah, it's the killer's card. And if she had just said that she found it, Edgeworth could have made a case that it was an assassin, and we wouldn't be in this fucking situation. Everyone in this game is dumb as hell. Like, constantly and consistently. So stupid. Myself included. We have time probably to do the investigations. Mystic Maya! Mystic Maya! Me too, Pearls. No, Phoenix is incredibly stupid. He knows nothing about law. Not a damn thing. That man is probably worse than everybody else. He knows no- Phoenix is just as bad as literally everybody else. I'll say that not Maya, Mia is pretty smart. And Edgeworth on occasion. But Francisca, the judge, every witness, Phoenix, Maya, dumb as bricks. This game is full of bricks as far as the eye can see. There, Pearls. I can't take it anymore. Look, it'll be alright. Everything may still work out. The condition was that we had to get a not guilty verdict, and so far, the kidnapper has kept his word and hasn't hurt Maya. And he won't because Mr. Angarde hasn't been given a guilty sentence yet. Pearls is smarter than half the people in this game, and she can't read. Cheer up. We don't have time to stand around crying. We have to get going. You're right. Mystic Maya is in much more pain than I am. Yes, that's right. So... Hey, you guys! Glad I caught you, pal. Mr. Scruffy Detective. Oh boy. Looks like Detective Gumshoe has been dubbed Mr. Scruffy Detective in Pearls' book now. It's just plain old Mr. Dick Gumshoe, and I come to talk to you, pal. But we're kind of busy right now. Did you get fired? So, what are you going to do from now on? What do you mean, pal? Well, you've been fired, right? So, do you have a new job lined up yet? Oh, that! What am I supposed to do now, pal? I don't have anything coming at me at all until my next payday. What are you talking about? You don't have another paycheck. I guess that means I'm just gonna have to work here at your place, pal. Say what? You'll be searching for things that will prove Mr. Angarde's innocence all day, right? Well, yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna help you, pal. I got lots of experience in investigating and watching over people's places. And I'm great at making really simple meals, pal. I'll take care of it all. Come on, Mr. Nick. Let's let Mr. Scruffy Detective take care of things. Okay. By the way, what's your best dish? Instant noodles, pal. Why am I surrounded by people who only eat cheap, unhealthy foods? That was the first time I've ever seen Mr. Edgeworth act like that. Never thought he'd say something like he didn't care if Miss Andrews killed herself. Yeah, that was pretty hardcore. He said that? That's horrible! But because of him doing that, we got the truth finally. The truth? Miss Andrews' last testimony. I wonder if that was the truth. It sounds like that he just takes Maya to burger joints, and all they do is eat fast food. I'll give you that there was nothing strange in her testimony itself, but I still think there is something fundamentally wrong with the whole thing. You mean about that thing, pal? Why would she want to... No, I mean almost need to frame Mr. Angarde. I couldn't figure that out from anything she had said all day. Then you're saying that testimony was a lie? Not a lie, per se. It just feels like there's more here than meets the eye. Or that's what Edgeworth would like us to believe. That's such a dirty trick! Even that woman prosecutor was better than that. Let's not go crazy, Perms. Franziska von Karma. Speaking of Miss von Karma, do you have any more information about her condition? Wasn't she shot this morning? Miss von Karma was shot today on the way to trial by a pistol, pal. But she's going to be fine, right? I mean, Edgeworth said she was in stable condition, but... Well, she was shot in the shoulder, so she's okay and still hanging in there. They should be done taking the bullet out, so she's probably resting at the hospital. Which one? What? Are you going to visit her, pal? No. Well, I was kind of thinking about it. Hey, you've actually got a heart, don't you? She looked like she was being tortured to death not being able to go to trial today. So maybe it'd be good for her if you went and let her whip you for a bit, pal. Let's go let her whip us, Mr. Nick! Now I'm definitely not going. Let's see. The name of the hospital. Oh yeah, the Hadi Clinic. That name sends a chill down my spine. Well, I guess it can't hurt to stop by and say hi. Yeah, she was shot. So yeah, you've missed a lot. For the longest time we were talking about Mr. Edgeworth like he was dead, and then he showed up and gave us some information about the case because he wasn't the lawyer on the case. And then we go to trial, and Franziska doesn't show up, and she didn't show up because she got shot. So then Mr. Edgeworth came and was just like a big dick man all throughout that entire trial. And now we're here at the hospital to see Franziska, who's probably fine, but very pissed. Never thought I'd ever come back to this place. Oh, fuck. Yes, are you here to visit a patient? Hi, wait a second, you're... yes, I'm Director Hadi. Why are you still here? Yes. What is it, Can I help you? You can tell me. Yes. Director Hadi. Oh. Edgeworth. Yes, I'm Director Hadi. Oh, you're the man from this morning. Yes, what is it? Director, Franziska. How is Franziska von Karma? You don't need to worry. Yes, she's in good hands. Because you see, I'm personally taking good care of her. Yes. Yes, and that thing, that surgery, it went well. Got my hands all up in her. You have my gratitude. It looks like Edgeworth doesn't know about this director and his secret. She looks so pitiful, absolutely terrified. Yes, but I understand. Yes, her opponent was a gun after all. And when I snuck up on her real secret like, she would scream real loud. I see. Edgeworth, don't just... but she's really cute too. When I'd do that, she'd whip me with her whip. I love that. Boy, did I cry like a baby. But I think I could get used to it. Ugh. Go back to your room. You're so mean, my frisky Friska. That's so good. Oh yeah, whip me again. Yeah, it was weird for everybody. We all got dragged into some man's kink. We don't gotta talk about it. And what are these tulips doing in your hands, Mr. Phoenix Wright? I knew I shouldn't have come here. Oh, we brought her flowers. I was shot in front of the whorehouse. I was shot in front of the courthouse in my right shoulder. Huh, but it's no big deal. This sort of thing happens all the time. I even had full intentions of returning to trial this morning. But that would have been too much for you. There's no need to act tough in front of us, you know. Regardless, I was dragged here by that man over there. He was so unyielding, one has to wonder if he simply He was simply interested in stealing my case. It was the only logical course of action, given the bullet was still lodged in your shoulder. But by taking over the case, I found myself having to clean up after you and that irresponsible deal you made. I think I know what deal he's referring to. Miss Von Karma. You made a deal with Miss Andrews yesterday, didn't you? I don't know what you mean. In order to make sure you got your guilty verdict on Mr. Engarde, you told Miss Andrews not to testify in court today. Huh, I don't know what you're talking about. Do you have proof that I made such a deal? You're denying it. It looks like you were lucky, Mr. Phoenix Wright. If I had been in court today, this trial would already be over. All while hiding Miss Andrews' own crime? That isn't my problem, whether she had tampered with evidence or not. I have only one objective, to find Engarde guilty of murder. The end justifies the means, Mr. Phoenix Wright. The end justifies the means. Miss Von Karma, Adrian Andrews believed you when you said, if you don't tell the truth of what really happened, then Engarde will be found guilty. And what does that have to do with me? Oh no, she's a straight up bitch, and I love her a lot. Because of that, she's now in danger of being found guilty herself. All because she believed in your words until the very end. That still has nothing to do with me. She's just a weak person, that's all. But you had to know she was... Ah! I think visiting hours here are about over. So if you'll excuse me... What's wrong? Why did she suddenly cut you off? Probably because she thinks I had the advantage in that argument. Edgeworth. What happened today at the trial, Edgeworth? That was not like you at all. You're so manly and demanding. I mean, I know you knew about Miss Andrews' condition. You could have made her testify as many times as you wanted, but to go that far... but she wouldn't testify about that until I said something. Listen, Wright, the courtroom is a garden of judgment. I am putting myself on the line when I stand in there. And that's why I made the witness do the same. It's only natural. By the way, Edgeworth, you were really angry in court today. That's rare for you. Witness that card! Give it to me, hurry! Do you have any idea what you have stupidly yet inadvertently done? This! I cannot believe you would hide this from me all this time. That card, what in the world is it? You mean this? Listen, Wright. This is top secret information. You absolutely cannot leak this. A special investigations team has existed for a number of years, but few know of it. I understand. Their task is to find the owner of this card. A man called Shelley the Killer. Edgeworth had a rough year. He got accused of murder, believed he killed his dad, and someone put a body in his trunk of his car. So he took some time off and went on vacation, and he didn't call us. And Phoenix Wright got really, really mad about that and thought he was dead. Then Edgeworth came back, stronger and more powerful than ever before, and all he does is go hard every single day of his fucking life, and I'm so proud of him. That's character development. That's what happened to Edgeworth. A man called Shelley the Killer. And just as his name states, he's a killer, an assassin, the best at that. An assassin? Can you put the pieces together, Phoenix? Because I sure fucking can. So who is this Shelley the Killer? The Killer is the name of a long-standing line of assassins. Long-standing? The name first appeared about 100 years ago, I hear. Shelley is the most professional name of the third heir to the Killer name. So because his professional name is Shelley, he leaves cards with a shell on them? I bet it sounds cooler in Japanese. I'm sure this is way cooler in Japanese. He has a habit of making sure to leave a card by the body of his victims. Why would he do something like that? Because it's kick-ass. We think this is part of his duty to his clients. His duty? If he leaves a card, then his clients can be assured it was he who killed the victim. It also serves as insurance against any charges being pushed onto his clients. I see. The killer values the trust between his clients and himself above all else. It seems that this is one honorable assassin with a moral conscience. I guess that even honorable assassins can exist. So you think this assassin, you think he's the one who did the killing in this case? I would appear that way. The discovery of this card basically confirms it, wouldn't you agree? Shelly the killer, huh? Yo, this sounds exactly like... God, this is probably a series that nobody will fucking know. There's a series called Tokyo Babylon, written by Clamp in the early 90s? Yeah, because they dress like they're from the 80s, so it was written in the early 90s, because Japan is constantly a decade behind in fashion. But, there's an assassin family called Sakurazuka Mori, but there's only one assassin in that family, and they pass the title down. So whoever kills that assassin becomes the next assassin of that family, because they can only be killed by the one they love. It's super good. I love Tokyo Babylon. It's a hot fucking mess though, and very problematic considering the year we're in. It's got some problematic themes, I suppose, but it's very good. Clamp just wrote that way back in the day. Yeah, I would say, God, Clamp loves their age gaps when it comes to, some of the stuff they write. Tokyo Babylon isn't a huge offender, unlike some of the ships in Cardcaptor Sakura, but it is, it's definitely, I would, reader be wary. I love Tokyo Babylon to death, and I love the sequel, X 1999, despite the fact that it did not get finished, but I'd just be mindful that it's definitely dated in terms of how Clamp used to write. I noticed something at the trial today. You were behaving in a very strange manner. Is something the matter? I guess I should just tell him. Maya, she's been kidnapped. Kidnapped? What does the kidnapper want? An acquittal. I see. I had no idea. I will prepare a rescue team as soon as possible and resolve this by tomorrow. Really? Really? Did you hear that, Mr. Nick? Mr. Edgeworth is going to... Stop trying to console me, Edgeworth. I don't need your pity. Mr. Nick. There is no way you can find her. We don't even have a single lead to go on. There's only one way to save her. I have to get an acquittal somehow. It's the only way. Right, listen. You need to know something. Juan Carreta was killed by Shelly the Killer, and the client who ordered the job is Matt Angarde. Your own client. That's what I thought. I think I said that at some point. I'm very distracted. Because Edgeworth is so powerful. Please stop. I can't listen to you. I can't believe that. I see. Well, if you want to continue your investigation, you will need this. What is it? The hotel right now is restricted to police personnel only, as we are looking for any clues that might lead us to Shelly the Killer. But if you take this with you to the hotel, I'm sure they will let you enter. Oh, good. In any case, I must attend to the preparations for Maya's rescue team. We'll meet again, if anything should happen. Now, if you'll excuse me. Mr. Nick? Do you think Mr. Angarde hired an assassin? No way. Phoenix, I mean, he doesn't have a psyche lock. Yeah, I guess not. Maya, please, all I ask is you make it home safe and sound. I know, Pearls is very cute. I guess even kidnappers can be a little clumsy. Clumsy enough to drop a card like this for me. And even though he said he was an assassin, I bet he's just making that up, like how Nick does with everything in court. Anyway, let's try this card trick with this card I just found. Sounds like I got the door open. Okay, time to take a look around. I guess I will leave. Goodbye. I already examined that room the last time we were Maya. Hey, this isn't how satellite TV works. Can't be inside. What is this place? I've got a feeling I'm not in the hotel anymore. Are those videos over there? Well, I'll worry about that later. For now, I should be looking for clues. That way I can show them to Sis and maybe get out of here. It's so dark in here that I can barely see, but these kind of feel like videotapes. All of them. Just what kind of room is this? That's weird. What's a figurine doing on a sofa in a place like this? I think it's a bear. Oh, how cute! But it's got a lot of cuts and slits on it. I wonder if it's some kind of puzzle or something. Oh, that's Celeste. There's a framed picture sitting on this coffee table. It's a picture of a woman. She's kind of pretty. Hey, look. Looks like something's written here. Let's see. I think it says, "With love, Celeste." I bet this could be a clue. Oh, hey, it's a computer. I've never really used one before. I have no idea whether the power switch is on this thing. Drat, there goes my plan to use this somehow to get out of here. What is this thing? An antenna, I guess? And this is a VCR? There sure are a lot of electronics and gadgets here. But what is this antenna doing here? Wow, I've never seen a TV this big before. Now where's the power button? Phooey, it's busted. I would die a happy samurai fan if I ever got to see the Nickel Samurai on a TV like this. Ah, I can't believe I just made a joke about dying, all things considered. Locked, of course. And it doesn't look like I can use the card to open this door. There's a little hole at the bottom of the door. If only I was a little skinnier, then maybe I'd be able to crawl through there. Oh, this simply will not do. I cannot have you wandering around at will. Yeah! Oh, it seems that your Mr. Wright is truly concerned about you. He is. For now, I would suggest you remain cooperative. If you cannot, there are ways in which I can help you. Ways? You mean? Dead men tell no tales, is how the saying goes, correct? Dead? I'm almost certain that I told you on our first meeting. I am an assassin. No way, you're lying! I mean, an assassin? People are not always who they appear to be. Mr. Nick? Huh? Oh, yeah, Pearls. Got caught up in my thoughts about Maya's situation. Mr. Edgeworth has left, you know. I guess for now I have no choice but to leave in Mr. Angarde. But I think I should listen to his story one more time. Alright, let's get going too. Okay. Hello, Gumshoe. I'm sorry, but visiting hours are over for today. I have too many questions I need to ask. I'm sorry, but I'm Phoenix Wright, a lawyer for one of the... You're Mr. Wright, you say? Oh, yeah, there was a message here for you. A message? It's from Matt Angarde. Here you are. What did he write? Is it something really important? I don't know. Well, let's see what it has to say. To Mr. Lawyer Dude, I've got something really important to tell you. Why do I feel uneasy all of a sudden? Oh, Mr. Wright. So, actually, I have a favor to ask of you. I have this cat named Shu. I didn't put out a lot of food when I left the house, so he's probably pretty hungry. You think you could drop by my house and feed Shu for me, dude? My house is just a little ways down from the hotel, alright? This is terrible! Let's hurry, we have to feed his cat! I'm sure poor Shu's stomach is growling by now. Yeah, I guess. A client's request is a request. Guess I should go check up on his cat. Yeah, it's not like we have anything important to do. Oh, I don't mean to go here. I need to go feed a cat. Wow! Everyone looks really busy with something or another. They're probably strengthening the evidence for tomorrow's trial. Hey, hurry up with that, will ya, pal? Pass the victims list around. You've gotta be kidding. There's over 100 people on here. Mr. Nick? Is Mr. Angardi really that big and bad of a criminal? Actually, Pearls, never mind. It sounds like they're working on a different case. Oh. How do I get to the... Wait, how do I get to the man's house? Video game. Alright now, Mr. Nick. Let's go look for clues. We have to, for Mystic Maya's sake. You shall not pass. Oh. Oh no. Oh, Miss Oldbag. Don't devalue my name and turn it into a gasp, you spiky-headed pettifogger. Because of you, I've been made to look like the bad guy again. Although I did get a piece of gum from Edgy Boy, just as he promised. Oh, there she goes. Oh, she's dead. Oh, Miss Oldbag! Keep your hands off of me. This helmet is airtight. No air gets in, and no air gets out. Then why do you keep putting it on? Don't think you can give me to move this with silly questions. You're gonna have to defeat me if you want to get by. I'm not hearing this. Ha! You're a million light years too early to be asking me questions, whippersnapper. Looks like the only way I'm going to get any investigating done is to first do something about this kooky alien. Alright. I don't have time for you. I really don't. I guess I have... Oh, there we go. Living room. I have to feed a cat. It's my #1 priority. Sure is dark. I'll go turn on a light. Oh. Wow. So this is what a star's house looks like. Must be nice to be rich. Oh shit, look at this. The other room is where Maya is. Come on, Mr. Nick. Let's find Shu, the kitty cat. Shu! Because there was a door like this on the room that Maya was in for the cat. So I guess this is Shu. Oh, what a lovely cat! Hello, Shu! The cat seems to like pearls. Pardon me. May I help you with something, Mr... Oh, we're lawyers? Actually, I'm Mr. Angarde's lawyer? The Master's... Then you must be Mr. Wright. Yes. Oh, it's a pleasure to meet your wonderful self. I am the family butler, John Doe. This man has horrible names. Like, nice to meet you. We're just gonna let this happen, huh? You must know all sorts of things about Mr. Angarde, right? Honestly, sir, I don't believe my master is capable of such a foul deed as murder. And, anything else? No, not especially. It is not appropriate for a lowly servant to speak of this master of his, speak of the master or his affairs. How typically butler-like, as it were. I think he just looks like this. Every time we've seen him, he looks like this. Mr. Doe, how long have you served at this residence? Well, sir, I would have to say maybe about 1 year. And, anything else? No, not especially. It is not appropriate for a lowly servant to speak of himself and his affairs. You know, I would have thought Mr. Angarde the kind to have a maid over a butler. Damn, you got a point. That's a very cute cat you've got here. It is my duty to take care of him. The master rather fancies shoot. And, anything else? No, not especially. It is not appropriate for a lowly servant to speak of the family cat. Well then, I guess I don't need this piece of scrap paper anymore. Well, I'm afraid I must take my leave of you now. Oh, we should probably get going ourselves. So young and yet so accomplished, a master of law. But there is also a lot to be proud of in being a butler, in charge of the house and all. Thank you for your compliments, sir. People are not always who they appear to be. Now, if you'll excuse me... Why did I come here to feed the cat if this man has a fucking butler? I'm so angry. A giant bicycle is flying through the air! That bicycle, Pearls, is one where you don't have to pedal and it moves on its own. Really? Wow! But sorry to disappoint you, it can't fly. Oh, that's too bad. Oh, there's a giant cooking hearth here. That's actually a fireplace. How are they different, Mr. Nick? You know, I've never actually seen a hearth before, come to think of it. You should come and visit Fay Manor then. I'll show you one when we do. It's a very comfortable and spacious lounge set. I wonder if famous stars drop by and sit around and have a good time. In any case, I don't really belong here, do I? Ah! What is with me and feeling inferior today? It's because you got slapped really hard by Edgeworth. Ah! There are masks here! Yeah, that one in the middle is the Steel Samurai, and the one next to that are the Pink Princess and the Evil Magistrate. They fought many battles against the backdrop of New Old Tokyo. Wow, you really know a lot about the Steel Samurai, Mr. Nick. I don't know whether to laugh or cry that I know more about that show than a kid. There's a small door at the bottom of this bigger door, Mr. Nick. I bet it's for Mr. Angarde's cat to use. Oh, you mean Shoo? The door, it's locked tight. Well, I guess that's to keep nosy people like me from entering it. Alright, now we will go to the hotel lobby. And now I will present to you this note. That I am allowed to be here. Maybe if I show her this letter I got from Edgeworth. Miss Oldbag, if you would look at... What? You want me to look at this worthless piece of... Edgy poo. Ugh, is that her perfume? Pheromone d'amour I smell? Blech. Let's see here. Would you please allow this unsophisticated young person to conduct his investigation? Yours truly, Miles Edgeworth. Yours truly. Huh, that man's good at flattery. Fine, but only because Edgy Poo said so. You understand? I just thought of something I have to do. Remember, no messing around. You do anything bad and I won't let you off the hook. She took that note and ran away. Because she had something to do. And I think that's gross. I think the implication is gross. It looks like she has strong feelings for Mr. Edgeworth. That may be, but you know nothing's going to come of it. That's so mean, Mr. Nick. Feelings are meant to be told and shared. Ow. Every time we talk about love, I always end up with a handprint on my face somehow. So anyway, let's continue our investigation. Okay. What? What now? One little thing before I forget. You can't go into Engarde's room today. Why? The police main investigation team is going to be in there all day, you hear? I wonder if they're the team in charge of investigating the killer. So don't go in there! Set one foot in there and you'll face the wrath of Wendy Oldbag. Okay, I'm leaving. Oh, I bet, what's his name is here. Looks like we're the only ones here. And yet, the hotel seems so busy somehow. Probably because the police team is scouring for clues about the killer. Hey, city boy! Lotta, you're still here. Wrecking course? An investigation photographer eats or starves on her ability to snap up the scoop, yeah? And this hotel just has an aura of mystery. You know, like something's always about to happen. But do you have a camera? Wrecking given! My photographer's gotta have cameras out the ear like cool on a real pro, you know? So I'm hanging around here. Speaking of cameras and feeding the mouth, do you have mine, you bread thief? Why can't you drop that thief thing already? I want to ask you about the night of the murder. What? You really gonna shell out the bucks for the info I got? Lotta, you were loitering in this hallway the night of the murder, were you not? Well, kinda, but... Brace yourself, Phoenix. Here it comes. I didn't exactly hang around here the entire time, you know? Followed a few stars around. Got a few autographs, shook a few hands, had a soda pop with a few of them too. Looks like she wasn't here the entire time that night. The security lady also wasn't in this hallway the whole time either. I guess this means there's no one who can tell us who came and went that night. So, about the note that was inside your camera case. That ditty I wrote? Yeah, can I believe what you've written? You mean the stuff about Engarde shoving his manager lady on the corridor? Yeah. Well, I reckon you best not be believing that. What? Look, I sort of wrote that on a whim, you know, writing whatever came to mind. Whatever came to mind? Yeah, when you get down to it, it's just a lot of random bulldoers. Hey, what's with you? Why are you staring at me like my grandpa used to? Oh, shit. A spider was crawling on me! How unnecessary! Oh. It was really, really tiny, so it didn't scare me at first until I realized it was a spider and it was on my heart. And I do not like that. Sam, I am. Okay. Just pretend that didn't happen and move on with my life. Oh. It was not a friend. It was an enemy. Hey, and, why do you look like you suddenly got older too? Or am I just shrinking here? Spiders are not friends. I need to get out of my house. I am super afraid of spiders. I do not like them. They're scary. My baby! My $1,600 baby! What's with that red-coated prosecutor anyhow? They are. The guy even told me it was evidence and refused to give it back to me. Well, that's kind of how it is. Hey, you're that redcoat's friend, ain't you? So put in a few good words for me and get back my camera. You want me to do what? Listen, nag the guy real good for about 5 hours, and I guarantee he'll give it back. Why don't you do your own dirty work? Well, I reckon it's time for me to get going. A tablet photographer without a camera is just a tablet, huh? Yeah, I guess so. Keep yourself together out there, you hear? I'm coming to see you in court tomorrow. Okay, I'll see you then. And you too there, little one. Keep up the good work, okay? Okay. Don't be picky about your food now. Okay. And make sure you do all your homework, you hear? Okay. And if you happen to find yourself a camera, make sure you bring it right back to me, okay? Would you please just leave already? We ate a lot of really, really big spiders, around here. They're like bigger than the size of, they're like the size of $50. And they're frightening. Frighteningly big and frighteningly upsetting. Oh, Mr. Nick. Oh, that's awful. What in the otherworldly ghastly, what was that otherworldly ghastly moaning? Oh, I hate evil ghosts. I don't think it's a ghost. Maybe it's a demon. Excuse me, watch who you're calling a demon, brat. Zoinks, it's the alien. Who are you calling an alien? Oh, it's just you, Miss Oldbag. What are you doing here? What is wrong with you youngins today? I came down here to pay my respects to my poor one, and you're disturbing me. Please talk to me about the night of the murder, just one more time. I talked about it plenty at the trial. I was fooled, tricked, deceived by that fraud of a photographer and her note. She was loitering around here with that embellic look on her face. With that embellic look on her face. Okay, got it. Now hold on a second there, you little pipsqueak. If you're going to take notes, at least make me sound better than that. Oh, alright. Now I've seen everything. I know. I've been getting a ton of them lately. They were gone for a while, and now they're back in like full force. I think Carly deleted like 4 of them in a row during a Final Fantasy stream. But you know, I was working that night too, doing my job, minding my own business. Yeah, just one after another. So it's not like I had time to waste standing around here that whole night. I was wondering if you could tell me a bit more about Mr. Corrit. He was the most popular star, you know, especially where it counts in my book. Why? This game got weirdly horny. Like, all of a sudden. We had, like, this whole, like, the first one was not nearly this horny. And then, like, we got that weird pervy doctor. We got Francisco whipping people. And most people being pretty into it. And we've got whatever the fuck this is. This super horny old lady. But I heard that he was lagging behind in the polls against Mr. Ongarde. Oh, well, that's just a recent thing. Bad luck and all that, you know. But he was going to become even bigger star than he used to be. Look, just look at this mountain of presents. It's a show of the mountain of feelings all his fans had for him. Yeah, that mountain is pretty big and certainly nothing to shake a stick at. Mr. Nick. What is it, Pearls? The presents. They're all bears, right? She's got a point. There isn't a single thing here that isn't a bear. All of Mr. Corretta's presents from his friends seem to be bears. Oh, that's because you can't think of Juan without thinking about bears. Bears? Why bears? You don't know? When my dear Juan was training, he fought barehanded with a bear. He refused to give in and let the bear win, but after the fight, they became friends. Wow, what a heartwarming story. Look, it's just like in those young people dramas. I can see the two tuckered out, down by a river, going, "Hey, you sure can fight. You too, bub, you too." Did all that really happen? It's in his biography, bub. What a load of crock. So ever since then, His fans have been giving him bears as presents. Yeah, nice. Bears. I'm Uncle Bear, and I say it's barely 8 o'clock. What is that infernal racket? It's one of the presents going off. Sounds like it's already 8 p.m. Way past your bedtime. Ugh, that startled me. I thought I was gonna die for a second. 8 p.m.? That's the time when the award ceremony ended that night, remember? Time sure flies. Hard to believe it's been 2 days since the ceremony. The transceiver. Hello? Hello? This is not a phone. Maya, how is Maya? You haven't heard her, have you? It seems you were not able to fulfill your end of the bargain, Mr. Attorney. I have heard the news. So it would seem my present did you no good. No, Mystic Maya! Mystic Maya! One more day. Please, all I ask is one more day. I'll get a not guilty verdict for sure this time. Please. I suppose if I must. I need that acquittal more than anything else, after all. Please. Please let Maya say something. I want to hear she's alright. Alright. Then... a little... What is with the static all of a sudden? Hello? Hello! It seems... bad. Connect. Damn! Did the transceiver just suddenly break? Excuse me. What happened? I don't know. All of a sudden, it became nothing but static. Mystic Maya! Mystic Maya! Why did the transceiver suddenly break like that? I should probably have an electronics expert look at it. The sooner the better. Ooh, Whomst is an electronic expert. Are you kidding me? Ooh. Probably not here. Criminal affairs? No. Probably not the detention zone. Does Gumshoe? Hey, welcome back, pal! I thought I'd make you a little something for dinner. That's nice. Thanks. A rich man's luxurious full-course meal. Out of a can, that is. I'm sorry you went through all the trouble to cook, but I don't have the time to eat. Oh, looks like you don't have a can opener, pal. And you've got to be kidding. And here I thought he had already whipped something up. Oh, I know. There is one way I know how to be helpful. Ask me about anything you want, pal. Go ahead. Well, since he's here and offering, I wonder what I should try asking him about. Can you fix my receiver? The transceiver? Oh, Mr. Nick. You should ask Mr. Scruffy Detective about that thing. What thing? Oh, yeah, this thing just up and broke all of a sudden. It broke, pal? When I was talking to the kidnapper, it just suddenly broke into static. Like it sounded like this. I don't hear any static, pal. Huh. Maybe it fixed itself. That's strange. It sure was making a loud static noise. Maybe. Maybe what? Maybe it was electromagnetic interference, pal. Electromagnetic interference? So what is electromagnetic interference? It's something that happens when a radio wave gets mixed up with another signal, pal. Oh, when you put it that way... I don't understand what you're talking about. Like, for example, when a cell phone goes off next to a computer screen. The stuff on the screen gets kind of fuzzy and starts acting funny, right? Huh. Computer. I have never had that happen to me, and I was a child in the 90s that grew up on a box computer. It's like when you use the dryer next to the TV, and the screen starts looking weird. Oh, yes, the TV does do that. Huh, so that's what you're talking about. She seems amazingly happy at being able to understand this. So the room you were in when the interference of the transceiver happened. There's got to be something there that's sending out very strong radio waves, pal. Something like a listening device or something. Ah! Hey, speaking of that, where were you when it happened? We were in Mr. Cordera's room, the scene of the murder. What? That's it, I'm gonna sneak into the precinct and get a bug sweeper. I'll meet you at the crime scene later, alright, pal? Wait, Gumshoe? Oh yeah, baby, it's investigating time. I'm on fire, pal. My fingers are itching to go. Yeah! Here he goes. You should be going too, Mr. Nick. Alright, let's go. Gumshoe's just gonna steal from the precinct? Hey, you're finally here, pal. Sorry to keep you waiting. Do you have the, bug sweeper? Well, you see, I got busted trying to sneak in, pal. Then suddenly, I'm staring at the precinct doors. From the outside, I mean. Oh yeah, I couldn't get one of the police bug sweepers. What do you mean you couldn't get one? We need that item. Hey, calm down, pal. Didn't say I didn't get one, just not the police's. Wow, so this is a bug sweeper? It looks a little broken. Hey, this was made when I was in elementary school, pal. Oh? By who? Me, of course. Seeing this sure brings back memories. Hey, don't look down on it, pal. Sure, it's a little beat up, but I put my heart and soul into building this puppy here. Your heart and soul. It'll work. Trust me, pal. I'll do the job. But you can't set the sensitivity. So it's going to beep at anything that gives off electromagnetic waves. But isn't it better that way? Oh. Well, anyway, since I brought it all the way, might as well give it a whirl. Right, pal? I'm getting that sinking feeling again. Okay, now I'll tell you how to use this baby. There's a listening device. There's a listening device or some other sort of bug hidden in this room, pal. So we're gonna find it, right? Right. Now, first, let's turn the sweeper on. Next, move the sweeper around to give the room a real thorough looky-see, pal. The sweeper will let you know how strong of a signal it's picking up, so keep an eye on it, okay? Once you find something that's giving off a lot of radio waves, press Enter to lock onto it. There's a lot of things here that's gonna give off radio waves. So let's take a good look at anything and everything that seems suspicious, okay, pal? Alright, I'm gonna stand outside and keep an eye. Give me a yell if you find the bug. Got it, pal? A cell phone. Nope, no bugs in here. A cell phone. What? Don't tell me you don't know what a cell phone is. I'm sorry, I've never seen one before. Now that she mentions it, my cell phone couldn't get any reception while I was staying in Korean Village. And Pearls has never lived outside of that village, so... Well, guess I can't say it's impossible to live without one. Oh, what a lovely bear! Ah! This must be one of those fancy bear-shaped toy robots. It's a robot? It's a real robot? Yeah, it's a real one. Mr. Nick. Yes? How many horsepowers is it? How many horsies? Horsies? Well, look, it's a bear, so, Lamp. Check. Listening device? Nope. There's a lot of lamps in this room, aren't there, Mr. Nick? Yeah. And they're all on. You shouldn't do that, Mr. Nick. Don't you know that's wasteful? Yeah. I'll be more conscientious from now on. Sorry. I guess I gotta check all the lamps. Oh, perhaps I don't need to check all the lamps. I don't really think the listening device is in the TV of all places. Looks like the TV was left on and it's now showing an old samurai movie. Yeah, this channel plays all sorts of international movies as well as domestic ones. You know, every time I watch one of those old movies, I always think, wow, these Japanese stars are really good at English. Yeah. When I grow up, I want to study Japanese. I should probably keep my mouth shut here and not destroy her dream. The radio is on and playing something. Oh, it's Kids Question Corner. Professor, why is the Earth round? Yes, why is it, Mr. Nick? Why don't you just listen to the radio program a little more, Pearls? It's a plain old calculator. It says 50 on it. Maybe he was calculating his allowance. A whole 50 cents? Maybe if he was a spirit medium. Well, there's a really delicious loaf of bread in here. Looks like it's been on keep warm all this time since the murder. Well, Mr. Scruffy Detective always says, gotta keep the trail and crime scene warm. I think the keep warm in this case is a little more metaphorical. Well, it certainly looks like an alarm clock. What's wrong? Why do you look troubled? Just can't imagine the listening device being inside this alarm clock. It just sort of reminded me of something that happened a long time ago. Oh. Well, anyway, it looks like the listening device isn't in here. There's no listening device in the notebook computer, huh? What's a notebook computer? Do you know what a notebook is? Yes, it's a small book with paper that you can write on, so... Well, that thing is like a notebook in a way. It's basically a small laptop. Oh, Mr. Nick, what's a laptop? That's the clock. Oh, the water in this hot water pot has run out. I'll go get more water for it. Oh, okay, sounds good. Looks like she's forgotten all about looking for the listening device. What's this? It sort of looks like a hot water pot, but... well, it's kind of like a hot water pot, but I guess... But instead of hot water, coffee comes out. Really? This pot can do that? Is there a pot of... that orange juice comes out of? I don't think there's anything like that, Pearl. Sorry. There doesn't seem to be anything giving off radio waves there, Mr. Nick. Keep a careful eye on the bug sweeper and let's try again. Uh-oh. Oh, I see. Bro! Jesus. This is just a giant stuffed teddy bear, right? It's the biggest one I've ever seen. Hey, so did you guys find it yet? The listening device, I mean. No, not yet, but this bear's eye is... Let's see. A perfectly normal stuffed bear with some really strong radio waves. Sounds like you found the device to me, pal. Let's dig this big fella's eye out and see what we got. Oh, no! You can't! Such a violent act. Wolf. No! It's a miniature camera, and it looks like, there's more. There's a transmitter and a timer. Thank you for the sippy. Oh, what a emitter? A transmitter, pal. Oh, is this more of that high-tech stuff? So this tiny thing is a camera. Yep, it's a Pinhole Ccd Camera, pal. It's a small, high-grade video camera mostly used in security systems. So it's a video camera. It runs on a battery, which comes with a set. But there's no videotape in this camera. This is the only camera part here, pal. The tape recorder with the tape inside it is somewhere else. Somewhere else? The footage is changed into radio waves, and then it's sent to that recorder. So... it's sort of like it's TV broadcast, isn't it? Hey, you know what? You're right. So what is a transmitter? It's a device that sends the footage to the camera that the camera took to a specific destination. It's like a video version of a listening device, pal. It looks like it's attached to a small clock-like thing. Oh, that's a timer, pal. You can see it turn the camera on and record a certain time with it. You can set it for a certain time? Yep, let's see. This looks like it was set to start at 8 p.m. and go for 1 hour. 8 p.m.? That was the time the award ceremony ended. There's no date set, so it's been recording every night, I guess. But Mr. Detective, how long has this bear been here? Well, I'm pretty sure it's been here since the night of the murder. Then maybe... Maybe this camera caught the murderer on tape! What? And if you think about the angle this bear is at, it's bound to have had a clear shot of the whole crime, pal. So there was a camera in this bear's eye, and it was disguised as a present. And I'm sure it was here on the night of the murder, pal. It's pretty big, so it stands out pretty well in my mind. But who gave Mr. Coretta this present? I don't know, pal. But this means that someone out there's got a video of what happened that night. Isn't there any way we can find out who that person is? It's impossible, pal. Radio waves can be sent almost anywhere, so there's no real way to find out. Oh. Is there really no way to find out? That's so weird. Because the assassin wouldn't film himself doing a murder. That's why he, like, leaves the card. He doesn't want people to, like, know who he... So who was filming this murder? I got it! What? It's for the clout? Hey pal, let me borrow this mini camera for a bit. What are you going to do? I'm gonna go around the electronics shop and see if I can find out who bought this. But that's impossible. I mean, it's already 9 p.m. Leave it to me. Even if I have to search all night, I'll find your man, pal. Oh yeah, baby, it's investigating time. I'm on fire, pal. My fingers are itching today. Yeah! He's gone. Yeah. But Mr. Scruffy Detective sure is a nice man. He's pushing himself so hard, all for Mystic Maya's sake. It's a mystery how you always manage to do things in the most inefficient ways, right? Ugh. You'll have to excuse me. I heard your conversation just now. Edgeworth, what are you doing here? A rescue team has been created and deployed. I can't say I'm optimistic, but we have to move forward one step at a time. I see. Thanks. Don't thank me yet. We still have to find her. Huh. So there was a spy camera hidden inside this stuffed animal, huh? You are one lucky man, Wright. Do you know this stuffed bear, little girl? I have no idea. Of course not. The maker of this bear is a very expensive luxury band from overseas. It's completely handmade, and only a small number of these are exported here. What? The camera and transmitter that Scatterbrain Detective took with him are dead ends. Things like those can be bought anywhere. However, this bear is different. By tracking how it got into this country, this bear can tell us who the buyer is. Can you really do that, Mr. Nick? Can he really? Well, I guess so. It's 9 p.m. I think I can still make it in time. I'll be taking this for now. I'm sure you have other things you have to do. See you soon, Wright. I like to imagine that he just hoisted that bear on his shoulder because he's the strongest man alive in this video game right now, and he just, like, took it. And he's just marching out of the hotel with this big-ass bear on his shoulder. Oh, what? Why are you doing this? I have no interest in explaining myself to someone who cannot comprehend. But besides that, Wright, until court reconvenes tomorrow, you should concern yourself with this question. Who was the person that murdered Juan Correa? The real killer. Do you really still think it was Adrian Andrews? To be honest, I don't know anymore. You still have a little time left. Find the truth, Wright. Everything begins with the truth. It definitely wasn't Adrian. Juan Correda's real killer and Miss Andrews' past. I feel like this is pretty cut and dry. Angarde hired an assassin, and the assassin, Shelley the Killa, killed him. It's weird to have a guilty suspect, though. Or like, yeah, it's weird that our client is kind of guilty, but he still didn't do the murder. And there might still be like, maybe he didn't hire the assassin, but it's hard to say. It'd be weird if we could make it work that he didn't hire the assassin, especially because Maya's at his house, so he's looking pretty guilty. It'd be cool if we actually had a guilty client for once. It's weird that they're always innocent. The kidnapper whose sole condition is an acquittal for Mr. Angarde. And this card, Shelley the Killer. Maya. The only way I can save you now is to find all the answers to this case tonight. I don't understand what your real intentions are, Edgeworth. But as you said, all I can do for now is find the truth. Alright, that is all I can do for today. There's definitely not time to do the 5 billion part trial, but it definitely seems like we'll finish it tomorrow, and then we'll start the third game, Trials and Tribulations, on Thursday. So that's exciting. Thank you so much for being here. This game is buck wild. I am very curious to see if we'll actually have a guilty-ish client for once. That would be fun. That would be a fun avenue to explore. But, thank you so very, very much for being here. I will be back in an hour and a half with Nier Replicant. And I have been being a good bean, and I've logged on every day except yesterday to water my garden. So we have so much wheat, and we can just knock out side quests like bam, bam, bam. I should fish so I don't have to fish on stream, but I'm not gonna. I need to take a nap. I'm exhausted. Thank you for being here. I hope to see you soon, and if not, I hope you have a lovely afternoon, and goodbye.